All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development 1100 C# programming class for the summer 2023 semester, I've been doing a lot of preliminary videos, or starting to, of our textbook, which is Murachs C# 8th edition. So far I've done the Appendix A, how to set up Windows for this book, although it's very short. And I've also done Chapter 1, how to get started with Visual Studio, Chapter 2, how to design a Windows Forms app, Chapter 3, how to code and test a Windows Forms app, Chapter 4, how to work with numeric and string data, and Chapter 5, how to code control structures. So today I'm going to concentrate on hopefully trying to finish as much of this next section as I can. That's Chapter 6 through 11, and we'll see how it goes. Then I'm going to take a little break, and then next week I would like to get done with Section 3, and then the next week Section 4, and finally finish up with Section 5. All right, so with that said, let's jump right into, nope, not Chapter 7, but Chapter 6. We'll get there. There we go. All right, Chapter 6 starts on page 169, how to code methods and event handlers. As the author says, so far you've been writing methods called event handlers for click events of buttons. In this chapter, you'll learn how to code methods that can be called from other methods. So we're going to start basically taking and breaking things down, for lack of better words. All right, this will help you logically divide code for an app into manageable parts. You'll also learn how to code event handlers for events other than the click handler. So we will learn how to code and call methods, how to work with tuples, how to work with events and delegates, and yet another version of the future value app. Let's start by doing this. I shut down Visual Studio, so I'm going to bring it back up again, and I'm going to bring up this test project solution. And just because of the fact that this doesn't have to be beautiful, I'm going to close everything here. And the first thing that I'm going to do, and we could do this either as a console app or as a GUI app. And I know by and large people like to do GUI apps better. They're easier to look at, but I'm going to do another console app. So I'm going to right mouse click on here, choose Add, New Project. It will once again be a console app. Let's just put in console. All right, so console app, .NET Framework, C#, choosing that one. And we'll call this console app 2, that's fine. And create. Now I'm going to write two different applications here. I want to say this again. I'm going to write two different applications. And I'm going to make a simple calculator. And the first one, I'm going to put everything inside of main. And in the second one, I'm going to break it up into different modules, just so you can see the difference between these. I'm doing this off the top of my head, literally, so I'm hoping everything will work. All right, so let's see. We'll do it like this. We'll do it... We'll make this a double. Now that's not going to work, but it will work if we do a double dot try parse on this. That'll work. Okay, now what doesn't it like? I don't know, but let's see if we can figure it out. All right, it's not liking what I'm doing here with this try parse, so let's check it out quickly. This is an integer one, but it should still be fine. If I can find an example, there we go. Let's do it like this. Let's try W3 schools. Okay, it didn't like that, doesn't like this. Let's look at that one. Int try parse. Double try parse, okay. No, I'm just kind of losing it this morning. I apologize. Let's see if we look in here. It really and truly isn't that hard, and I'm making it much harder than it actually is. In fact, okay, we have to say where we want to put it. That's fine. See if we do this. All right, now let's get rid of this. And see if it takes that. Okay, it doesn't like that either. There we go. Okay. All right. I'll do the same thing with number 2. All right, now what we're attempting to do here, just so you see this, we're creating 2 variables. They're not being initialized. But this will say enter number 1. All right. And then this will, after we hit put a value in and hit enter, that'll attempt to do it here. All right. So we'll do this. If not, let's see, I'm going to do this. Don't want Boolean, I want bool. We will initialize that. So I'm going to say result equals that. If not result, I'm going to go over all of this in about 20 seconds. I don't know if I can do that. about this? I'm going to put this while here as a while, not result. Please try again. Alrighty. And then let's do the same thing here. All right, first of all, I'm going to run this, but before I do, let's play computer here. This should come up on the screen with a message that says enter number 1. And then it's going to attempt to take whatever we put in there, whatever we entered, and copy it to our variable called number 1. If it can successfully do that, in other words, if we put a numeric value in there, result will be true. Otherwise, result will be false. If it's false, we're going to say illegal input, please try again. And we put it into a loop, meaning they'll be stuck in there until they put in a valid value. All right? Okay, then we're going to do it again, but with number 2. So when we get down to here, we should have valid values in for number 1 and for number 2. Okay? And then I'm going to come in here and let's create some more variables. Make them all doubles. Sum, difference, product, and what do we call it? Quotient, I think it is. Okay? So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say sum equals number 1 plus number 2. Difference equals number 1 minus number 2. Product equals number 1 times number 2. And quotient equals number 1 divided by number 2. Now, there's still problems with this program, so we're going to talk about these literally in just a second. Let's pretty this up a bit. And then let's come down here and we're going to do, to show you how we can do this too, let's make a string. We'll call it output str. Okay? And we're going to say output str plus equals we want to say number 1 plus number 2, but we want their values. So we'll say number 1 plus number 2 equals, and that'll be the sum. Okay? All right, now it doesn't like this, so let's see. It says use of unassigned variable output string. So we'll come up here and we'll initialize it to nothing. That should get rid of that message. And you can see it does. So, all right. And this will say minus, and it'll be the difference. This will say times, and it will be the product. And this will say divide by, and it will be the quotient. All right, so literally we built a really, really, really simple calculator in a matter of moments here. All right, let's see if this works. So let's put a blank line between each one of these. Oops. Like that. So we'll put that at the beginning of each line here. All right, now let's see if we've got a working calculator. I'm just going to run it and put valid stuff in here just so you can see it. Okay, whoops, and I have to tell it we want to run this program. So I've got to right mouse click on console app 2 and set that as my startup project. There we go. So here we go. Enter number 1. That should be a right, not a right line, so it stays on the same line. Let's do 37 and 12. Oh, it did work, but I forgot to put my read line in there, so it popped right off the screen. All right, but before we do that, let's see, because it looked funky. So where we've got right here, we're going to make right line, we're going to make that a right. And let's see, please try again. We'll do it here as well. That should pretty it up quite a bit. Plus, if this screws up, we'll just leave it the way it is. It should be fine. So let's run it. Okay, enter number 1, 37. Enter number 2. Well, I still didn't make that a right, but 12. I never told it to print. Alrighty. That should be a right. So should that. So should that. And then we have to tell it to console.writeLine, our output string. All right. Sorry, it's taken me a while to get going this morning, but let's do this. All right, 37 and 12. And you can see we've got a very simple calculator. Okay? Now I'm going to make this so this goes to 2 decimal places, but that's fine. The addition works, the subtraction works, the multiplication looks like it works, and the division works. Okay? So that's a good start. Let's first change this. So when we're printing this out here, I'm going to say quotient dot toString, and I'm going to make it a number with 2 decimal places. And you don't have to do this, but I'm going to put a dot toString on all of these. It prints fine without it, but I'm going to put it in there anyway. One of the things I'm trying to get across to you are what are considered to be good programming habits. All right, and that's what these are. All right, so let's see if we're finally there. The other thing is it's pushed over a little bit. So after we do this, let's put in here a couple tabs. All you're going to notice on here is it's going to look a little nicer when we first run this. That's all. Whoopsie. Oh, that was right. Okay. Save everything and run it again. And you can see now it's pushed over a little bit. We could have even done it so it wasn't at the top of the screen, but how about 459 and 8? Okay, so you can see now what it looks like. I don't think this looks terrible. Okay, I could say the sum is or whatever, but it looks okay the way it is. Let's just do it right at the top here. Let's just make it go down a few lines so it looks a little nicer. That's it right there. And let's see. It also should handle it now if I put in bad data. So let's try that and see if it does that. So if I put in something non-numeric here, hello, says illegal input, try it again. If I leave it blank, illegal input, try it again. So that's good. And it should work for both of them. So if I leave it blank, oh, okay, I didn't check the second one correctly, so we'll finish that. Notice that's infinity. We want to fix that too. So let's see. While not result. Let's see. Enter number 2, constant read line, double dot parse. We didn't. So let's see here. That should say result equals. Okay, we can get rid of that then. So now we should have it handled. Okay. Now the only thing is, when we're doing this, if the second number is 0, the answer is infinity. So we don't want to do that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this. We're going to have a thing here. We'll call it quotient string, and we'll set that equal to nothing. All right. So here, if number 2 is not equal to 0, then we can come through and do this. Okay, so I'm not going to put an else in there. Okay, I still don't want to put an else in there. Still don't want to put an else in there. All right, but I'm going to change this. So this quotient string is going to say illegal attempt to divide by 0. Right like that. All right. And we'll say here, we'll make another Boolean. Illegal divide, and we'll set it equal to false. Okay? Now, if it's not 0, do the divide. Okay? Otherwise, we're going to set illegal divide equal to true. All right? Now, we'll play around with this a little bit because we can now. Okay? It's coming in here. It says use of unassigned variable quotient. Well, there's a variable. But what I'm going to come in here and say, this is fine. Adding, subtracting, multiplying works just fine. All right? Now, what I want to say here is this. All right? Either I want to do this because it worked, or I want it to say it was an illegal divide by 0. All right? So what I'm going to come in here and say is this. I've got all these. Now I'm going to say if it's not an illegal divide, meaning that we put in and we did something in there that worked and it was legal, we're going to do this. All right. Otherwise, we'll fix that error in just a minute. we're going to say this divided by this equaled an illegal divide. Quote, quotient STR. All right. That is everything except I'm still getting an error here, so we have to fix that. So number 1 plus number 2 plus use of unassigned local variable quotient. We'll just come in here and say this, that the quotient is equal to 0. That should get rid of that error, and it did. All right, so let's come in here and do this now. Did we do this at the, yes, we did. Okay, so here it is. All right, 567 divided by 13. And there's our answers. Cool. All right, everything works. Now, if we run it again, and we put in 567 and 0, we get the illegal attempt to divide by 0. Okay, so that works. Okay, good. It's all working. And there's nothing wrong with it. Made a program that was probably a heck of a lot longer than it had to be. Now I'm looking here and it says unnecessary assignment. So I could do this. There. All right, you'll notice I have not assigned any beginning values to any of these. So by default, this gets assigned 0.0. So does this, so does this, so does this, so does this, so does this. This wasn't assigned a value, so it is assigned rather. I believe it'll be false by default. This, I had to say it was false just because of otherwise the code down there would have given me a warning. This is our output string. This is our quotient string. All right. Now everything appears to be working, and that's good. Okay, I should also mention, because I haven't yet, that you see up here, this program needs system to work, but you can see these other ones that are in here are all gray. What that means is they're not being used. So I can highlight them, and I can go over here and I can say, remove unused things. So I can do that. It makes my program a little smaller. Okay, this isn't anything, I don't think at least, that's real hard. And we can look at it again in our actual class itself. But I'm going to do a file save all here, and I'm going to grab every flipping thing that's in here, and I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. Everything. In fact, we'll do it starting with main here. Okay. All right, so I just copied everything I had to the clipboard, and now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a copy, which will change dramatically in just a couple minutes. So let's add a new project. This again will be another console app. We could have made this just as easily. We could have made this a GUI app, a graphical app. All right, so there it is. But now I'm just going to grab this and paste. Now I just duplicated the program. Why'd you do that, Jeff? You're going to see in just a moment. All right. Again, I don't need these, so I'm going to get rid of them. All right. Now, let's do this. We'll keep number 1. We'll keep number 2. Okay. And this is going to be our first number that we read in, our second number that we read in, the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. All that stuff we're going to keep. But we are going to do, basically, we're going to take this and break this up into routines. All right. You'll notice if you look here, these two routines are virtually the same thing, except one of them says number 1 and one of them says number 2. All right, but other than that, they're the exact same routine. So we're going to see if we can write it as just one routine. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to outside of main, I'm going to write a bunch of routines here. Okay, and don't worry, we'll go over all of them in just a minute. But I'm going to say here static void, static double input number double n. Okay, and it's going to make me return something. So I'm just going to say double here. I wanted that to be n. And I'm going to return 0. This is all going to change in just a moment. Okay, so there is that. I'm going to have another static double, and it's going to be called calculate sum. Okay, and very simply, it's going to return, we'll need int n1, int n2, and it will return n1 plus n2. Okay, so we've now got that. That'll handle our sum. We will need a difference, and that'll handle n1 minus n2. We'll need a product, and that will handle n1 times n2. And then finally, we will need a calculate quotient. And I shouldn't have made those ints. All these that are ints, they're doubles. So let me change every one of these. The difference between an int and a double, remember, an int will only handle whole numbers. A double will handle numbers that have a decimal. Okay, so again, this will be double n1, double n2. And for now, but we're going to change it in just a minute, we'll just return n1 divided by n2. All right, we have no errors. Okay, but now what we want to actually do with main here, all right, is I'm going to say here for double number 1, I'm going to say equals input, what do we call this? Input number. Okay, and we won't even pass it anything. We'll go down and fix that in just a minute. This will be calling input number. So in here, let's not require anything. Okay, all right. Then sum is going to be equal to calculate sum. And it will need n1 and number 1 and number 2 to do its job. All right, I'm going to line all these things up so we can go over them together. Okay. I don't think I'll need this result anymore. This illegal divide that you see right here and this quotient string, I won't need those in here anymore. I'll need those down in here. So let me just copy them in. Now you'll notice I'm getting all these errors, but it's okay because I'm going to remove most of that code in just a minute. All right, so let's see. We'll keep this right here, but I can now get rid of this, and I can get rid of this, and I can get rid of, let's see. And I realize, you know, it sounds like I'm all over the place. I really and truly am not. Okay. Please try it again. Well, this is going a lot better than I thought it would. Return N. All right. That's okay. All right, so we've now got everything fixed, just about. We don't need this output string here anymore. And we're going to write another routine. I guess I'll need to pass in number 1 and number 2 as well. Let's call them N1 and N2. Okay. Now I call them number 1 down here, so I might as well. I'll fix all those. Number 1 and number 2, which has to be a double. There we go. Here we go. All right, it's just about done, believe it or not. Okay. Don't worry about this. We'll fix this in just a moment. In fact, we don't need that there anymore. Okay, it's going to look a little funny. I'll have to fix that. But I want to make sure I've got all the other errors out of here. Oh, wow, this went a lot slicker than I thought it would. Okay, so let's see. Okay, we'll leave that like this. We'll leave that like this. And then where we're reading that stuff in, Okay, I think I've got all the errors out of here now. Great. All right, so let's look at this and let's play computer. Okay? All right, now we're calling the same routine to input both of our variables. That's in here. All right, so now it's going to just say enter a number, and we'll put it in. If we put in something that's illegal, it'll say illegal, try it again, and it'll say again, enter a number. Eventually, hopefully, we enter a number that's valid. All right, we return n, which puts the number into there. Then we call it again. We go through the same stuff, and we get a valid number, and we put it in there. All right, then we have to figure out our sum. All right, our difference, our product, and our quotient. And we're doing those by calling calculate sum, calculate difference, calculate product, and calculate quotient. For calculate sum, all we're doing is returning the first number we passed in plus the second. For calculate difference, we're returning the first number we passed in minus the second. For our product, we're returning the first number we passed in times the second number. And then finally, we've got our quotient. All right. And we're going to come in here and we're going to do this. What I'm going to do is I am going to put in here if number 2, I guess that's n2, is not equal to 0, then we can do the divide. And I'll put down here just return 0. Okay, plus I wanted to know that that variable that we had in here, that thing that was called illegal divide. Okay, we're going to put that in up here. Okay, and we're going to pass into this also illegal divide. All right, now it's giving me an error because right now it only expects 2 things to be passed in. And as soon as I put in bool illegal divide, that error that was up there is now gone. All right, so if this is not equal to 0, and now we want to say illegal divide equal false, because it is false. All right, so let's see. Let's make that a global variable. I don't like global variables, but we will anyway. Okay, so illegal divide is false. And otherwise, the illegal divide is true. We don't need to pass it in anymore since we made it global. It does not have to be passed in, so we can get rid of that. All right. Now we are calculating the quotient. Oops. There. An object reference is required. Oh, I've got to put the word static up here. All right. And wow, everything's working. Now let's do one last thing. We're calling all this stuff, right? Let's put this. We're going to have one more variable called again, and that's equal to true. While again, and now we're going to put in all of this stuff. This will allow us to keep calling our calculator. So rather than just calling it once, we can call it multiple times. And then we'll put in bool run program again. In fact, we'll do it like this. We'll say again equals run program again. We haven't written that yet, and that's why we're getting that error. Let's put that down at the bottom here. That'll be a right, not a right line. Okay, there's my read line. And what I want to do is, I don't know if there's a char at here, but I'm going to check. All right, I'm going to check on here and say char at the C sharp. So let's see. Okay, I guess there isn't one. You have to write your own, which is fine. Got this first char. So first char equals yes or no. This is the first character. Dot two dot. Oh, come on, what's uppercase here? Oh my goodness. We can make this. We'll make this a string. String dot to upper. That's not what I want. All right, we've got to figure out one error here, and then we can run it. Then we'll go back and look at it. I've made this into a monster here. Maybe this has to be a char. All right, first of all, just to see if it works or not. All right, just to see if it works or not. All right, I'm going to run it. Now, first thing I want to do when we start in here is I want to call console.clear. So I'm always starting with a new screen. So let me run it, and we'll go through the whole program. So enter number 1, 56, enter number 2, 5. Okay, that looks good. All right, now where I'm doing the where I've got this return false or for return true, let's put in our console.read line right there. See if that helps things. All right, 567 and 8. Okay, why is that just flaking out like that? I think I should say here, hit any key to continue. Okay, that's going to be that'll have to be a right line. Followed by a read line. Let's see if that does it. Something in here is causing this to go like that, and I got to figure out what it is. Let me pause for just a moment here. All right, I apologize for that. I got a phone call, so let's look at this. Now even though it's not totally working yet, it'll work in a couple minutes, but let's look at this. All right, we're telling it in here, I made that a global, so I didn't have to worry about passing it. The other stuff I'm passing all over the place. All right, and I guess the reason that it's not showing me this stuff is I'm not calling this. And that's probably why I'm not getting any output. So I don't need there we go. I'm going to pretty this up a little bit. All right. So what should be happening in here right now, we're going to run through the whole program. This console.clear will clear the screen when it starts. So every time I want to come in and input 2 new numbers, it should clear the screen first. Okay? So notice I'm calling the same routine. I'm creating number 1 and number 2 by calling the same routine. So it'll come in there and it'll say each time enter a number. And it'll attempt to parse that number, which means it'll attempt to convert whatever I enter into the keyboard into a double that's called n. If it can do that, result will be true. If it cannot do that, result will be false. If result is false, ask them to do it again. Then eventually we should get a valid number, so we return that number. So we do that both for number 1 and for number 2. Okay? Then now that we've got a number 1 and a number 2, now we call calculate sum, which is just going to return number 1 plus number 2. Then we call calculate difference, which is going to return number 1 minus number 2. Then we call calculate product, which is going to return number 1 times number 2. And then we're going to call quotient. And now the quotient's got some work to do. All right? And what I mean by that is the quotient is going to have to figure out whether the second number is 0. If it is, it's just going to return 0. And if it's not, it's going to do the divide. All right? You'll notice that with each one of these, we're calling a routine, and the routine, when it returns, is going to stuff its value into a variable. Put it into a variable, 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 and put it into a variable. However, with this print outputs, that's designed to just print things. So it is not returning anything. Its return type is void. It is void of a return type. All right, and we ask the user if they want to run the program again. So let's look at this. So this, I believe, is working. That should be working, So here, if we get down to the quotient, if n2 is not equal to 0, all right, if n2 is not equal to 0, okay, then a legal divide is false. We're not doing anything illegal, so we're just going to do the division and return that. Otherwise, it is 0, so we're going to say a legal divide is true, and we're going to return 0. All right, this should print out all of our information. And then this should ask if we want to run the program again. All right, I'm going to look because I'm not sure why. So there's a console read line where we're reading in the value of the first number or the second number. And then here's the one at the bottom. So I'm trying to figure out why this is breaking here. All right, so let's see. I have to do this really before the return, but for whatever reason, it does not appear to be grabbing this. So yes or no equal constant read line, upper, yes or no 0. If first char dot to string equals not equal y, return false, return true. Well, let's look at it. So I'm going to run it here. You've seen this multiple times now, 341, 19. All right, it's got all of my things. It's returning everything. Looks to me, just taking a quick look, like those are right. But something in here, that console.readline, it's like blowing up. It's never hitting this line here. So let's put right there. I'm putting breakpoints there to see if those lines are getting hit. So 561 and 12. According to this, this can't be being hit yet because I'd get some kind of a message in here. But when I come here and I hit enter, it looks like it's never getting to this routine. So let's put in here message box dot show, and I'm just going to put down in run program again. I want to see if that line is getting hit. Oh, there is no message box here. This will have to be a write line. Console.writeLine. Sorry about that. All right. It's never showing that boom. It's just, I don't understand why. This isn't getting hit. I think the reason it's blowing up here is this console.readLine. So I'm going to try doing this. I'm going to try to take this and put it down here. All right, let's see if that fixes it. Oh my goodness. That's it. That, I think, is maybe what was breaking it. So let's see. Well, I'm going to stop the lecture here and then go back and give you the go over the chapter. So let me do a file save all here, and then let me take this and see you in a minute.